Hello, this is Ruban Selvanayagam from Property Solvers, and welcome to episode 10 of the podcast. As James is out in Morocco, in addition to the interview released earlier this week with Jonathan Rowland of the National Association of Property Buyers, today I'm going to do a bit of a solo podcast on the topic of house valuation. So I'll be referring to a blog post Property Solvers put together an update on a fairly consistent basis over the years, where we list a range of useful tools that you can access. Most of them are for free. You can find it via Googling house valuation property solvers, and we'll add the link in the show notes alongside other links mentioned in this podcast. We will be updating this post with a new tool we're building, but we'll make sure this resource is always available. Remember also to check out our recently launched house price pages, where we cover all postcodes in England and Wales. And they contain a range of useful data, whether you're selling or buying. We also offer clients who are actively selling their properties free house and auction valuation reports. And whilst the back-end databases are currently being updated, please contact us directly if you're interested in receiving one of our desktop valuations. So enough shameless plugging, and let's get straight into it. So the first one is Rightmove house valuation and the various tools that come along on that platform. We've put Rightmove at the top of the list as it remains the UK's most popular portal, and really is an excellent way to check a property's value. Chances are that you're already pretty familiar with it anyway. But first off, we would probably suggest heading to sold house prices in the navigation, or you can Google Rightmove house prices. You simply enter the postcode and you'll see sold prices of properties registered at the Land Registry. You can also expand your search for up to 15 miles and filter specific timeframes, type and tenure. So that's whether it's a freehold or a leasehold. Remember, there's a 2-month time delay for Land Registry prices to appear in the public domain. And flats and leasehold properties often take longer. So, there are occasions where you're waiting up to 3 months for property sold prices to appear, sometimes more. So that's worth bearing in mind. And that lag can kind of affect what you end up, estimating what the valuation is. As you scroll down, you can sometimes see useful links to the original listing, which will have previous photos, floor plans, etc. And you can click on those to see those images. If it's grey and there's no link and often no photo, that means that no further data is available. And it's also worth noting that a wider range of information is shown on desktop, so your PC or tablets, rather than your mobile device. As you go down on these listings pages, sold prices, you can also sometimes see market trends, price comparison reports, a monthly house price index alongside other buyer and seller guides. There may be anomalies where a property sold price is lower than others on the street, and it's worth checking the photos to see the condition, which could explain why it's sold for cheaper. Other times, the house or flat could have been sold through an auction, for a sell house fast service like what we offer here at Property Solvers, where we're typically buying at around kind of 80% of the market value, 80 to 75%. Or sometimes if it's sold privately, it might not be the full market value, or the price might be skewed somewhat, or part of the portfolio sale, which could affect the end values in various ways. Remember also that part exchange, shared ownership and right to buy property prices are likely to be lower too. So just kind of bear that in mind when you're looking at overall price trends in the local area. Another thing that we tend to do at Property Solvers is to check the sizes of properties, just to kind of see how they compare. And as you probably know, most streets in the UK have different types of properties, and it's not always easy to compare like for like. For example, one property may have a larger garden, or have had an extension at the back or upwards. So it's worth just checking that out. And other times, the difference can be quite subtle between properties. Most people know that generally end terraced houses are bigger than mid terrace properties. And although they may look similar from the outside, detached and semi-detached houses often vary in size quite significantly. Similarly, bar purpose-built blocks, it's often rare to have flats of the same size within a building. In older buildings, there tend to be huge variations as well. Okay, so what we often do is check the sizes of properties using previous energy performance certificates. So it is a little bit of a faff to kind of go in and check these out. We'll add the link into the show notes, but you can go onto the EPC site, put in the postcode, you have to click a couple of buttons, and then you can see the overall size of the property and then kind of see how they compare to others on the street. You can also check the floor plans on the listings itself, but they're not as accurate as the EPC. I would say, generally speaking. So yeah, and if you're still unsure, perhaps the property isn't on the EPC register, it may be worth instructing a Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyor specialist or valuer to come over and have a look at the property. But they'd often include a valuation on their reports. They might charge a little bit extra, but obviously spending lots of money on properties that you may not end up buying could end up being a futile exercise, so you might want to be a bit careful about just ordering loads of valuation reports when you may not be able to buy the property where you haven't secured the offer. So yeah, on the back of sold prices, what we also recommend is checking out what's actually up for sale in your local area or neighborhood. So yeah, just head to the Rightmove homepage. Most of you hopefully got that saved on your on your screens. And yeah, you can enter the postcode, click for sale, adjust the property criteria, radius, price range, number of bedrooms, type of property, and the date or when it was added to the site. I'm probably teaching you all to suck eggs here, but yeah. Also remember to tick include under offer and sold subject to contract, and you'll be able to see what properties have sold or become under offer recently. You remember, just because it has those labels on it doesn't always mean that the property is definitively sold. Today it's estimated that between kind of 1 to 3 or 5, roughly 1 to 3 to 5 UK property sales are falling through. And it's therefore possible that the sale may not complete. And, that's why we tend to rely on sold prices rather than asking prices. And, there tends to be a difference between 5 to 10%, depending on the buoyancy of the market. So, you can check this out. We'll add the link in our show notes. We do have a calculator which shows average differences between asking and sold prices across England and Wales. So I'll add that into the show notes for you to check out. There are a number of Google Chrome extensions that you may want to download that are worth checking out. One of them is Property Log. Another one is Property Tracker and PATMA, and they will show you how the agent has dropped the price over since the property was listed. So it's a really useful tool, particularly if you're out there looking for properties to buy. If you've seen it's been on the market for a little while, the seller has not had that much luck with finding a buyer. It's sometimes quite good to kind of see those potential opportunities via Rightmove. And here at Property Solvers, we also regularly make use of the Rightmove Plus tool. And that's great for us because it's got, historical data going back to when Rightmove first started, which was in the early noughties. I might be wrong there, but yeah, roughly around then. And that's got a range of data that's not available in the public domain, other agents' listings, how other agents are doing, things like that. So really useful if you're, a registered agent with Rightmove to use that. Okay, so moving on to Zoopla house valuation. Zoopla, as many of you will probably know, it's the second most popular portal in the UK. And the Zoopla house price page offers a breakdown of sold values. So you enter the postcode or the name of the street, and you can access street level information on property types that have sold, the number of sales, average sold price, and a chronological breakdown of recent transactions. So that's a fairly useful tool. They have, I think it was about a year or two ago, they moved their estimated online valuation to a tool that's called How Much Is My Home Worth? And yeah, we're always a little bit skeptical about how they actually base this estimation. Calculations are a little bit fuddy, if that's the right word. We often speak to vendors and they often say, well, Zoopla says my house is worth this, but there's no real evidence to point to that. So I would often take that estimation with a pinch of salt. Obviously, it's a fairly decent guide, and it's by all means use it to a certain degree, but it doesn't seem to be based on sold prices. What I think is they're kind of applying some kind of weighting to it, and then basing on the sold prices originally. So they'll say like, okay, well, prices have increased by X% nominally in the last year, so let's apply that across the board, which I don't think is a great way of doing it. Because the UK property market's so nuanced that it's not that easy to kind of apply those kind of generalizations. Okay, so the next one is the Land Registry Valuation, UK HPI, the price paid data set. And this one is arguably the most comprehensive tool for research into property sales submitted to the HM Land Registry. We often use it because we want to see what properties are sold for. And it's used as the basis of all the tools that we highlight in this podcast, and is the prime reference used by RICS for their level 1 to 3 reports and their red book valuations. So we believe it's the most trustworthy index to track real price movements, But again, it can take 2 to 3 months, sometimes more, for these properties to appear on the register. So we'll add the link into the show notes, and on there you can see sold prices since January 1995. So it's a case of going onto the main page, and in most cases you can enter the name of the road or the town postcode, and the data will appear. You don't really need to enter any other information, uncheck boxes, etc. But you may want to narrow down your search by changing the various adjustments on the initial screen, and the search results will show transaction history, property type, tenure, and whether it's a new build or not. Okay, so net house prices is another tool, a fairly simple tool that I've personally used quite a lot since starting out in property. It's really just a list of sold prices on a specific street, and then you can kind of expand out. You simply just enter the postcode and a range of data will be displayed. They do have a free valuation tool that kind of crops up when you're going through the site, and they're often linked to estate agents. So I think what they do is they have some kind of tie-in with local estate agents, and then the estate agent will come back and give you a valuation, which by all means, you should get if you're selling. There's nothing wrong with that, but just beware that, estate agents often price properties to win business, as opposed to pricing them on real data. That's an argument that quite a few people make anyway, including myself. Okay, so the next one is the Mouseprice valuation. This site has been operating since 2004, and it seems to be going through a bit of an update. So we do actually need to update the blog post on this one. I did try having a bit of a play with it, and its sold price tools didn't seem to work. So this is in April 2024. So I assume they're just kind of revamping it. So it does look really interesting what they're doing there. And it appears to be a lot more sophisticated than before. So I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what the developers have been doing there. And we'll probably do another podcast on house valuations. And I look forward to seeing what's being done there. Okay, so the next one is property price advice. They state that it's the go-to source for free, impartial UK property price information and advice. So on that one, you simply enter the postcode and click on the second button in the middle of the page, assuming you're checking it out on a desktop. And that link will have sold house prices. List of properties will appear with the last sale date, type, tenure, and other information. And you can use drop-down menus to select the distance, the date of sale, house type, and tenure to access Land Registry linked historical data. Our property, like Mouseprice, this site is going for a bit of a revamp. And from what I can see, in addition to offering breakdowns of sold prices on any given street in the UK, England and Wales primarily. They've been developing these, what they call logbooks, which are effectively digital folders which contain relevant information for every property in the UK. So that does look quite interesting. They're doing a few other things on their website, but I get the impression, again, that they are they're updating what they're doing on an ongoing basis. And I think it's probably to kind of monetize their tool there. Another one that I think is well worth checking out is, I think it's fairly new. Well, it's been around for a few years, but it's not something that many people talk about, and we found it quite useful. It's called the Move Market. And again, it uses Land Registry data, which is the data which most people should be using. And you head to the website, and at the top, you can enter your postcode into the search bar, and you'll be presented with some key pieces of information on the street. So in addition to sold prices, you're getting the total number of property sales over the last 10 years, the most recent property sale, date and price, and the largest proportion of property type sold. So you're getting a lot more kind of granular information there. And if a property is on a long street with different postcodes, you can scroll left or right to reserve the relevant data. And you can also check out house price trends on neighbouring streets. So it's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's the most user-friendly site, but it's still decent. It seems to have some kind of good information on it. So yeah, again, as I mentioned, you can check out the neighbouring streets. It does have estimations on price rises, so you can see colour-coded graphical representation of how property prices on your selected street have changed, and neighbouring streets as well. You can see historical sales, and for each property, you can see information regarding the last sold price and year, type and tenure, and whether it's freehold or leasehold. So similar to the other tools I've mentioned in this podcast. You can also click on full sale history, and a pop-up will appear that will show prices and dates of previous sales of the same property. It's quite useful if you're looking at a particular property and you kind of want to see what's occurred, even though you can see that on other tools. It's good to have it kind of shown to you kind of right up front. You can also see there's a tool called See Today's Price. It also comes up in a bit of a pop-up, and you can see an estimation of where the Move Market estimates the price is currently based at on selling the property unmodernized. So you can get to the same page by clicking on View Details on the historical sales list. Okay, so there is also an investment rating given out 5 stars. So you can access this by clicking on View Details on the main search page. And there's also the option to refine your valuation. You can scroll down and see how much extra you will achieve if you were to make improvements to the boiler, to different aspects of the property, like the boiler, bathroom, kitchen, flooring, windows and doors. So you just head to the internal improvements tabs and you can adjust that. And also the major renovations provides another sliding scale that shows the extra house price value created by adding a single story extension, 1 or 2 bedroom extension, new outbuilding and garden improvements. So back on the property details page, you can also see the following: how much the property price has changed since it was last sold. And interestingly, what are the people like that live in a given area? So there's a range of kind of demographic information. So you've got age, average age, health, work, employment, background, culture, religion, whether the residents of a particular area are owner-occupiers or privately rented or in social housing. So quite useful information there. You'll also be able to see how this property compares to other in the postcode, with a property price rank, sales, more sales history information, and you can refer to other property investment performance. Also, it's got how often does property become available on the street. So you'll be able to see how scarce the property is, because often if people aren't selling their properties, it often shows that people like living there. Whereas properties kind of churning quite a lot tends to show that people like to move out, or more often, more frequently. Cost per square foot, which is quite useful. Property valuation details, which has got more information on house price growth and housing costs. and other housing-related costs and expenses. So you've got things like stamp duty, mortgage costs, the added value by extending that was mentioned before, similar price properties and recent sales, and an overall price summary as well as provided. Okay, so yeah, these things are useful, but again, when you're looking at these tools, always kind of try and make your own mind up rather than rely on them too much. You know, they're great for kind of giving you some, you know, an overall picture of what's going on with the property, but you know, have a walk around the area, go and have a look. You know, speak to the locals. Maybe if you can, speak to neighbours and that kind of thing. You know, to really get a good picture, because there's only so much that these tools can show you. So yeah, the next one is Acadata house prices. So this is an independent house valuation research consultancy, and they're regularly featured in the mainstream media and are known for taking quite an academic approach to their assessments of house price trends. Their house price calculator shows the change in value taken into account the measurement of house price inflation, applying county or London borough level Land Registry data. So there's a simple form where you enter the property type, the original purchase price, the purchase year and month, and the full postcode. So once you've entered these details, you'll need to click Get Current Value and agree to the terms and conditions, and then an estimated value will be presented to you. If you're checking out other properties' price movements, you can use the tools described above to obtain the right kind of data and necessary data that you need. Okay, so the last tool is property data. So this has kind of done the rounds a lot in kind of the investment communities. It is paid, although you can take out a 14-day trial. And it's well worth investing if you're looking for a bit of a deeper dive into macro and micro trends. And yeah, as I mentioned, it's increasingly being used by property buyers and developers. So for land transactions as well, and more complex buildings, you can get that extra level of detail that's not possible with many of the tools that are, you know, out there for free in the public domain. There are other tools that are fairly similar to this, where, you know, you can get a lot more information and probably more of use if you're looking to develop property or if you're looking for planning gain opportunities. These tools are things like Nimbus and Land Insight, both paid for, but really good if you kind of are looking for a little bit more detailed information, you know. And also they're great for looking for off-market opportunities as well. They've kind of got the software's been developed over years for you to be able to do that, you know, and, you know, write letters to vendors and that kind of thing. It's a little bit of a slow burner and a bit of a numbers game, but, you know, if you can get it right, it really is a good way to you know, to generate leads and potentially do some really good deals. Okay, so with property data as well, it does look like they've been working on some updates on their site, so I'll certainly be checking out what the team have been doing there. So yeah, hope that's been useful. I'm keen to continue discussing this topic of house valuations. It's quite a crucial part of what we do as property buyers, for obvious reasons. And yeah, I'm keen to get James's input into you know, how we look at valuation, how it's evolving as well. And I definitely think that there's more tools out there than ever before, and a lot of free information out there that, you know, it's really useful. But yeah, as I mentioned before, I would always suggest going out there, visiting the property, really getting a feel for the property, and not just relying on these tools to kind of determine what the property value is. So yeah, a big thanks for listening, and feel free to add your comments, like and subscribe. Many thanks. Take care. Bye.